Hey guys, what's happening? Neil, Temple of Doom, back once again from Pop Cultured with Silver Screen Sheen and team. Check us out on the radio. That's Newstalk 1290 CJBK, a Bell Media station on iHeartRadio. And today I have a new movie review for you, and it is the long delayed The New Mutants. Yes, this film, directed by Josh Boone, was actually better than the internet said it was. I liked it anyway, and I'm going to break down a really quick spoiler-free review for you. Now, the reason why the movie was delayed in the first place, for over 2 years, it was delayed actually. The reason why is because it was mainly due to Disney's takeover of 20th Century Fox and other factors, of course, like the pandemic. So it finally appeared in theaters last August, and just last Tuesday, we finally got it on our consoles, our boxes at home, so we can stream it. You can rent it, you can buy it, and I rented it the other day. And it is, it is an X-Men spin-off. I won't call it an X-Men movie because there's just, the one thing I'm going to say here without spoiling too much is that there are no X-Men cameos. There's no like surprises or anything like that. They do mention X-Men like, oh wow, it'd be great to be an X-Men. I'd love to be an X-Men, but that's about it. It's very limited ties into the X-Men lore. Although those people like myself that grew up with the comics, they know the comics by Chris Claremont and Bob McLeod. They're fantastic. They're some of the greatest Marvel stuff of the '80s that they were turning out back then. So great characters, a great diverse group of characters. But like I said, it doesn't exactly acknowledge that it's in the X-Men universe so much, other than just mentioning the X-Men. So besides the fact that the characters aren't really well known, I think they are quite likable. Even if you're not familiar with them, I think it's worthwhile for you to give these characters a chance, even if you're all superheroed out. And there really are no capes and costumes in this movie. This is not a superhero movie. It's more of a horror comic book adaptation, quite frankly. So the main protagonist here is Dani Moonstar, who plays a character in the comics. She was called Mirage, and she's played by Blue Hunt. Her father saves her life at the beginning of the movie during this, which looks like a hurricane, but it's not a hurricane. He winds up hiding her, and there's this unseen force that wipes out her village. Her father is played by Canadian actor Adam Beach. As many of you may recall, he lost his head in Suicide Squad as Slipknot. I've actually worked with Adam once in a play in Ottawa a long time ago, Witness for the Prosecution, 1996, and I hope he's doing well. That's a long time ago. But I digress. Dani is knocked unconscious, and she actually wakes up in a hospital, which is run by a Dr. Reyes, who's played by Alice Braga. You may remember her from Predators 10 years ago. Dr. Reyes says that she saved Dani's life, and that she also knows Dani is a mutant, and she needs to perform some tests on her to see what she can do with her powers. And that's really the main crux of the movie, is Dani's powers, which I won't spoil. Now, the other young mutants in the hospital are Sam Guthrie, who is known as Cannonball in the comics. He's played by Charlie Heaton from Stranger Things, and he's invulnerable when he's blasting. That's what he used to say in the comics. His powers consist of this kind of chemical reaction where he becomes this unstoppable force that can destroy everything in its path. There's also Sunspot, who controls fire, and he's played by Henry Zaga. This is not Sunspot's first live-action film appearance. It was actually there was actually another version of him in Days of Future Past. So you may remember that, but that was a totally different actor. Maisie Williams from Game of Thrones, of course, Arya Stark herself. She plays Rain Sinclair, who is this Scottish girl who can turn into a wolf/werewolf. She's wolfy. She's a dog. What can I say? She gets called a dog too in this movie. Yeah, there's some bullying going on, and that's Anya Taylor-Joy doing the bullying here. against Ron and Danny as well. She plays Ilyana Rasputin, and she's actually Colossus's sister, though they don't really acknowledge that in the movie here. There's no mention of it here. She can teleport. She can also turn her arm to steel, so kind of like her brother, kind of. And she forms this giant demon-slaying sword, just seemingly out of nowhere. Because she's Magic. That's actually her name, Magic with a K in the comic books. Anyway, so she's the mean girl here. Like I said, she's teasing Danny, whose powers, again, like I can't spoil Danny's powers. If you know it already because you've read the comics, then you'll find the film fairly predictable in that sense. But you'll see. I'm not going to say. This is, like I said, it's a horror film. It's been marketed as a horror film. Unfortunately, it's just not that very scary. It's not that frightening. There's a few good jump scares. Overall, the effects are good. Everything that they do visually in the film is really well done. But, as a fan of the comic, I did kind of hope that there was going to be a mention of other characters. I thought there was going to be more of a tie into either the Uncanny X-Men or maybe some of the other New Mutants, like Karma, who is actually an original member, also Magma or Doug or, Cypher, Warlock as well, but that's okay. I mean, you can't have every character in the whole, comic book series done, but just as a big fan of Chris Claremont and Louise Simonson's writing over the years, and, it did kind of leave me wanting more, so... But overall, it was a close enough adaptation for the fans, I'd say. And I just wish it was longer. I mean, it's only 94 minutes. 94 minutes goes by really quickly. So, if you're one of those people that like an hour and a half movies, then hey, great. But for me, again, as a fan of the comics, I was like, oh, that's too bad. I hope there'd be more stories and develop more into the, the relationship between certain characters as well, because some of the characters get really close. So anyway, If you're not familiar with the characters, if you're not familiar with the comics, it might not float your boat. You might not be that interested. You might be kind of all superheroed out. And again, these aren't really superheroes. These are teenagers that have powers that are manifesting, and they're dangerous. I mean, Dr. Reyes has a point. Keeping them there. So. Anyway, I mean, if you're tired of superpowered characters and maybe it's getting old for some audiences, it's not going to please everybody. So I understand some of the reviews. I just think it's a little underrated overall, because it is actually an entertaining, diverting film with a very diverse cast who all give fine performances. It's a shame that there won't be any sequels. And you can read all about that online if you want. It's kind of a long story, but, naturally, if the film's not going to do great and Disney's likely to reboot it and everything, the whole X-Men lore is probably going to get redone eventually. So, yeah, especially since it didn't break even, it didn't do well. Most movies at the box office didn't do well this year. Maybe Sonic the Hedgehog, but not many. So it wasn't a great year for movies. There is a surprise voice in the film that I learned in the credits. The voice of some of the demons is a music celebrity. So so that's an interesting little fun tidbit, but that's all I'm going to say. So check it out. Give it a chance. It's what Greg and I used to call a worthy one-time watch, because it's definitely worth watching at least one time. And it's good. It's better than they say, trust me. But then again, like I said, maybe familiarize yourself with the characters before watching it. Otherwise, going in cold, you might be like, okay, it's an origin story and it explains itself, but you might not care because there's just too many of these comic book characters out there, right, in live action now. So what can you do? If nothing else, I really just hope that it at least inspires people to seek out the comics, and give them a go, because it's well worth it. So my verdict for the New Mutants, directed by Josh Boone, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. And remember, I'm a comic book geek. I'm a guy that grew up with these characters. So, yeah, being familiar with it already, it'll be beneficial to you. So thank you so much, guys, for listening to my quick review of the New Mutants. And I hope everyone's doing well out there. Everyone's feeling safe and healthy. So until next time, this is Neil, Temple of Doom, signing off. Peace.